What is up, everyone? Happy Football Friday. Lot to talk about today. We have quite a bit of news as the UFL had their college draft on Wednesday. We're also geared up for training camp. So we are getting PUP and NFI lists populated by teams starting camp. And yeah, so let's get to it. Training camp week 3 for us. Not really any breaking news, so we'll just go on. UFL to NFL here. Couple more signings before camp opens. Texans, they signed defenders edge rusher Malik Fisher. Excellent signing. Had a great year with DC. One of their top pass rushers, and that's something the Texans wanted to improve, obviously. Signing Danielle Hunter this offseason and some of their other moves as well. The Seahawks, they signed Panthers wide receiver Marcus Sims, super explosive guy. Not sure what the opportunity is going to look like in Seattle. They have a decent amount of guys at that position, but Sims, a guy that can not just catch the ball, he can also help you on special teams in the return game. So that might be an avenue that he could maybe make the roster that way. And then a workout announced today. The Falcons, they're going to work out Renegades wide receiver Isaiah Winstead. Would have liked Marcus Sims going to Atlanta a lot better than Seattle. Still think Atlanta could use some help at the wide receiver position, but that's just me. And talk more about that on the NFC South show next Friday. But anyways, let's get to the UFL college draft recap. So we're not going to talk every single pick. We're going to talk a lot of the picks, though, because I did like a lot of these guys. Mostly every guy that was drafted in the 10-round draft that they have are currently on NFL rosters, and I'll say that whenever I talk about a guy. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see these, this league draft guys that are currently in the NFL. Most of them probably won't make their teams, and then we'll see what the practice squad opportunities hold. And then, these teams will hold their rights for the 2024 UFL or 2025 UFL season. So we may see a small amount or a large amount or something in between of these guys in the spring. But starting out with the number 1 overall pick, it was a quarterback. Who would have thought? The Memphis Showboats, they drafted quarterback Jason Bean from Kansas, currently on the Colts roster. Probably not going to make that team. So I'm very excited about that. Case Cookus, they've had some quarterbacks in Memphis, just haven't really gotten the guy. I think a lot of the Case Cookus thing his issue was the offensive line play. But anyways, Jason being a good dual threat option there for Memphis. Second round, I like that pick as well. Running back Blake Watson from Memphis, playing for the Broncos currently. I think he could have a shot at making that the Broncos roster. However, Memphis struggled to run the ball this year, and Blake Watson, a shifty zone running style kind of back. So I like that one. Jalen Coker, wide receiver from Holy Cross, plays for the Panthers currently. A great option, played very well at Holy Cross. Defensive end Eric Watts from UConn in the 5th round. Coker was a 4th rounder. Eric Watts in the 5th round. Space Eater on the Jets roster right now, but would love to have him as a dominant interior guy for the Memphis defense. Round 6, they went center Andrew Rame from Oklahoma, playing with the Panthers right now. I love Andrew Rame. Great player at the center position, controls the pivot, can make all the calls as well. So whether he makes the Panthers or he goes to my Memphis Showboats in the spring, I'm fine with either one. Skip to the 8th round, corner Jaquan Shepard from Maryland, playing with the Raiders right now. I think he's got a good shot at making the Raiders team. They're pretty thin at corner. So I think he can play there. But again, secondary is a need as well. So like that one. And then the final one for Memphis here, tight end McAllen Castles from Tennessee on the Eagles roster. Eagles are pretty kind of deep at tight end. They lost some, but McAllen Castle's a great player. Played at his final year at Tennessee, but prior to that at UTEP, I think, if I can remember right. Probably not, but anyways, like the player. The team that held the second overall pick, the Houston Roughnecks, they went defense in the first round, and I liked their selection. Defensive end Ayabi Oki from Charlotte. Didn't see that he's on a roster currently, made some camps, but I think that would immensely help the Houston pass rush next year if he is on the team. The only other one I liked for Houston was their last pick, round 10, tight end Jorquarius Spivey from Mississippi State. Also not listed on any NFL roster that I saw doing just quick search. So that would be a good option in the passing game for this Houston team. On to the Arlington Renegades, who held the third pick. First round, I liked their selection. Quarterback John Rice Plumlee, UCF, on the Steelers roster currently, but awesome dual threat player. Had a ton of success at UCF with head coach Gus Malzahn, and I think that would immensely upgrade the quarterback position. Luis Perez, the king of spring football, but not as mobile, and JRP there gives you some RPO read option style looks that Coach Stoops can really revitalize the offense with, I think. Round 3, they went linebacker Kalen DeLoach out of Florida State, currently on the Bucks. I think he's got a good shot to make the Bucks roster. They're kind of thin at linebacker, but DeLoach, awesome sideline to sideline player. Struggles a little bit in coverage, but I think he's a great player that could benefit from playing in the spring. Going down to round 6, outside linebacker Bo Richter from Air Force, playing on Jimmy's Vikings currently. They drafted a bunch of Vikings, actually, 3 in a row from round 6 through 8. But I love Bo Richter. He also, just like DeLoach, a gritty guy at the linebacker position, and of course, being in a military academy, he's going to be disciplined. So, yeah, Jimmy, I forgot to say. I guess the Showboats didn't have any Vikings. The Roughnecks did, though. They had one linebacker, Donovan Manuel from FIU. If you have anything to chip in on these Vikings undrafted guys, let me know.
You'll notice a big pattern for this UFL draft is a lot of outside linebackers, edge players coming from the Vikings, and it's because we just have such a glut of them that they're easy targets for the UFL. So it makes a ton of sense that we're seeing a lot of Vikings outside linebackers and edge rushers being drafted here, because the Vikings and Brian Flores really covet these guys. I don't have a lot on them personally. The only one I really have heard anything about was Gabe Murphy. I've heard he's had a pretty solid rookie camp, and he came into training camp.
I haven't gotten him yet.
Yeah, we'll get to him. But these other guys, I haven't heard too much of. So
we got through.
Yeah, this makes a ton of sense.
Donovan Manuel, and then like I said, the Renegades here, 3 straight Vikings from round 6 through 8. Bo Richter, Taki Taimani from Oregon, the D tackle, and offensive tackle Spencer Rowland from North Carolina. The last guy I liked for Arlington here, round 10, of course it happened. Wide receiver Drake Stoops, Oklahoma, currently on the Rams roster. Of course his dad was going to draft him. So that would be very cool to see Drake playing for his dad again, because he played for Bob. I believe like right at the end of his career at Oklahoma, whenever he retired from Oklahoma, I think Drake was on the roster. I don't remember exactly what year Stoops left OU, but I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Probably am, like usual, right? The DC Defenders. This is not me being a homer, I promise you. I liked every single pick that they had. They picked experienced players and players that were most of them I thought were going to get drafted, really. Starting off round one, offensive tackle Gottlieb Eidze from Maryland on the Eagles roster right now. I love him. I thought he had a good chance to go in the later round, 6th, 7th round. Didn't end up getting drafted, but yeah, I mean, he would vastly improve the protection for Jordan Ta'amu, who I expect to be still back with DC next year. We'll see, but yeah, I really like that selection. DC made some picks just in case Ta'amu isn't returning to the UFL next year. Round 2, they went with quarterback Keaton Slovis, BYU, on the Colts roster, just like Jason Bean is as well. But Slovis, kind of a different player than what Jason Bean and Jordan Ta'amu are. Not as mobile. He can run for sure, but he's more of a pocket passer. And one thing I would like Slovis to do is increase the accuracy, less turnovers. Just what I saw from his time at Pitt and BYU. Round 3 was, I mean, they got these, like I said, they got awesome guys. Round 3, defensive tackle Leonard Taylor from Miami. Plays on the Jets right now. I'm blanking on the Jets D tackle depth chart outside of Quinnen Williams, but not there. I think they're loaded on the D line, so maybe he won't make the Jets, but I think he should make some other team somewhere else if he doesn't make the Jets. But that'd be awesome. They lost Malik Fisher to the Texans at the edge rush, but having that interior pass rush would help immensely. Round 4, offensive tackle Garrett Greenfield, South Dakota State, plays in Seattle right now. I mean, again, if they could get Eidze and Greenfield, I mean, they'd have bookends. Those guys are good. Round 5, they went to Michigan, got defensive end Braden McGregor, also on the Jets. And again, it's just a great defensive lineman, motor kind of guy. Didn't have the production at Michigan that he wanted, but quality prospect there. Round 6, they went running back Michael Wiley, Arizona. Plays for the Commanders. I like that. They were another team that struggled to run the ball this year, probably because they didn't have why am I blanking on his name? No, the running back tore his ACL in camp. Was with your Vikings.
Oh,
last
year.
I can't remember.
I can't remember now.
Anyways, that's one of the main reasons they struggled at running the ball. Round 7, they went linebacker Dallas Gant from Toledo. Really liked him. Plays with your Vikings right now. Good experienced player there. They went linebacker again in round 8, Curtis Jacobs from Penn State. Plays for the Chiefs right now. Think he's got a shot at the Chiefs roster. He was a player I definitely thought was going to get drafted. Experienced guy, can play all 3 downs. Maybe a little slow on the 40 time. Maybe that dinged him, but otherwise, great player. They went 2 quarterbacks in this one. Round 9, they went quarterback Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin. Plays for the 49ers. And he's similar to Slovis. So I don't know if they're like shifting the offense in DC or what, but those 2 players are pretty almost the same, really. Not not flashy. They don't run a ton. They can, but more of a pocket passer style. And then round 10, safety Omar Brown, Nebraska, plays for the Broncos. Hard-hitting safety, can play the ball as well. Really like Omar Brown. On to the Battlehawks. I liked their first rounder. They went quarterback, Chevin Cordero, San Jose State, plays with the Seahawks right now. Not going to make that roster, but I think it was very important for the Battlehawks to draft a quarterback early. They have to start preparing for post AJ McCarron. Like, I don't know if he's going to play next year because he almost didn't play this year. So I think AJ's probably done. So Chevin Cordero, or they had Manny Wilkins last year as well. Someone is going to have to be the new quarterback for Anthony Beck's squad there. They got a good running back to go with him in round 2. Running back Cody Schrader from Missouri plays on the 49ers right now. And we'll see if Jacob Sailors is back. He's in the NFL right now with the Giants, so we'll see where he goes. But Cody Schrader, hard runner, has some good speed as well, can catch the ball. So I like that selection. And then the final one I like for St. Louis, wide receiver Jaden Yankee, South Dakota State, round 8, plays on the Texans right now. I believe his brother also plays there, Jaden, or Jackson, I mean. But yeah, the Yankee twins were awesome at South Dakota State. So a great selection there. Michigan Panthers, round 1, they had a great selection. Offensive tackle Julian Pearl from Illinois, plays on the Ravens right now. Would be a great player. I thought he was going to get drafted for sure. Didn't. Round 2, they went corner Dwight McGlothern from Arkansas on the Vikings currently. Excellent player. I think he's got a shot to make the Vikings, right?
Oh, yeah. He's very highly touted. A lot of people in camp like him a lot.
Yeah. Can play safety and nickel, I believe. But can play strong or free safety. He can pack a punch. He listed as corner. I thought he was more of a safety. But anyways. DB, sure. Round 3, defensive end Isaac Ukwu from Ole Miss, plays on the Lions right now. I think he's a good player. Limited sack production at Ole Miss this past year, but has some good traits. Round 5, the Panthers went with quarterback Rocky Lombardi from Rusty's Huskies, NIU. He's on the Bengals right now, but he's not flashy either. Well, sometimes he is, but he's a hard-nosed quarterback, can run the ball, and he's just a competitor. So that's why he's named Rocky, I assume. Round 6, I liked. They went back to the Ole Miss wide receiver Dayton Wade from plays on the Ravens right now. Dude, Dayton Wade had a couple games this past fall that just blew you out of the water, but got some good size and definitely is fast. So I think they lost Marcus Sims now to the Seahawks. So Wade is a guy that could potentially replace him next year. Round 7, I also liked safety Akeem Dent from Florida State, plays on the Chargers right now. I think he's got a good shot to make that team. They are a little thin in the secondary, so hard-nosed, free or strong safety, I should say, but can play both positions as well. The San Antonio Brahmas, I liked a lot of their draft. Defensive tackle Gabe Hall from Baylor on the Eagles right now, round 1 pick. Excellent player in the middle there. He would help the loss of Prince Emili, who went to the Falcons. Your guy, like I said, edge rusher Gabe Murphy from UCLA on the Vikings right now. Round 2 selection. Great player.
Fantastic.
Round 3, I also liked offensive tackle Donovan Jennings from USF on the Packers right now. They lost Cole Laval, a guard, in to the NFL, but looking at Donovan Jennings, I think he has the skill set to play either tackle or guard. Going to round 5 for the Brahmas, defensive end Jamari Chroma from James Madison with the Bears right now. I love Jamari Chroma. Excellent interior presence there. Can play outside as well. He did at JMU a bit, but more of a defensive tackle, undersized for that. Round 6, wide receiver LaDietrich Griffin or Tulu Griffin, Mississippi State guy, plays with the Raiders right now. I think he's got a great shot to make the Raiders. So don't see him playing with the Brahmas because I just don't like the Raiders' depth at wide receiver. So I think Tulu's got a good shot. He also can play special teams. Round 7, safety Bo Braid, Maryland, plays with the Ravens. Dude, I don't know how Bo Braid didn't get drafted. I mean, I thought the world of him at Maryland. He was a great free safety, ball hawk there for the Terps. So maybe with the news we have coming up with the Ravens, maybe Bo Braid's more accessible now to San Antonio for next season. Round 10 was the last one I liked. Wide receiver Joshua Cephas, UTSA, with the Jags. Don't think he's going to make that roster with the influx of wideouts they had in Jacksonville this offseason. But Cephas, a great player, very experienced guy. Played on a couple Conference USA title teams with the Roadrunners there, and would be a great player for San Antonio and Wade Phillips. And finally, the inaugural UFL champions, 3 chips in a row, Birmingham Stallions. I liked every team's first round pick. It's kind of crazy. But first round offensive tackle Frank Crum, Wyoming, plays on the Broncos right now. The locks were what Crum, I remembered Crum most for at the combine when you saw the golden locks running down the 40 runway. That was the highlight of his combine, anyways, for me. But otherwise, great player, has some grit. Obviously, playing at Wyoming, got that Western feel there. Going to round 3, running back Imani Bailey from TCU with the Chiefs currently. And who knows? You know, we see the Chiefs always have like an undrafted running back every single year, it feels like. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco a couple years ago. So I wouldn't count Imani Bailey out of making the Chiefs roster. But had a great Senior Bowl. That's kind of what I thought propelled him. That's why I thought he was going to get drafted. Also a pivotal part of the TCU team that went to the national championship in the 2022 season. But yeah, I think he's a little short. He's 5'7", but speedy, can catch the ball. Great third down back. They lost Ricky Person to the NFL, so they needed a back anyways. 4th round wide receiver Isaiah Williams from Illinois on the Lions right now. I don't think he's going to make the Lions. I did like the signing by Detroit, but good size outside. I think he's 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", and good production at a school that it's tough to produce at the wide receiver position. Round 5, tight end Dallin Holker, Colorado State, excellent player. I think he's got a good shot to make the Saints roster. I'm just not impressed with their tight end room, so I would love for Holker to make New Orleans team. But regardless, if the Stallions need him to play next year, I think he'd be a great addition. They still have Jay Sternberger. I don't think he signed anywhere, so Holker would be a great pick. Round 6, defensive end Trajan Jeffcoat from Arkansas, also on the Saints. Great pass rusher there. Again, kind of a theme of the pass rushers that were drafted. Limited sack production in college, but the traits are there to be a rotational kind of guy. Round 7, offensive tackle Andrew Coker from TCU with the Raiders right now. I think he's got a decent shot to make Vegas. They have some tackle depth issues, but Coker's a guy that was awesome at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Round 9, quarterback Sam Hartman. Notre Dame plays with the Commanders right now. Not going to make that team. But again, just like building that quarterback carousel there in Birmingham. They seem to have, a couple different guys every year. So Hartman would be a great addition for Coach Holtz there. And then the final pick of the draft is one I really like. Offensive tackle Ethan Driscoll. Marshall plays with the Chiefs right now. I think he's got an awesome chance to make Kansas City's roster with the tackle depth issues that they had and the production issues that they have at the tackle position. Massive guy, 6'8", I think 315, and loved watching him play at Marshall with that size there. So yeah, that was the college draft. I know spent a lot of time on that, but I liked a lot of the picks. A lot of them are very good college players, and a lot of them aren't going to make their teams that they're on right now. So we'll see how many make it to the UFL in 2025. On to NFL news. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has requested a trade. Of course, the answer by San Francisco is we have no interest in trading Brandon Ayuk. Feel like I heard that one before. It's literally the most generic GM/owner answer that you can give. And then you trade him 2 weeks
I have no interest in trading him until I hear the right offer.
Right. 2 weeks later, he's traded, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy to be somewhere else."
It's like, and then the team will come out like, "Oh, we weren't really wanting to trade him, but we got this offer, and it was one we couldn't refuse."
Yeah,
and then that's it.
Could not pass it up. It was too good. Yeah.
Couldn't pass it up. Couldn't pass it up. It makes our team better. It was what we were looking to do, and I know we said we didn't want to trade him, but it just felt like the right move at this time.
Yeah. So the market for him, I think it's a 2. At the bare minimum, but it's a 2, I think, right now. I think you can add stuff in if needed, but I don't think it's going to be much more than a 2. It's not going to be like, crazy, like a 2 and a 3 or 2 2s. So I still think the Steelers are probably the best option. It gets for the 49ers as well, because it gets them out of conference. And the Steelers still need that second outside threat to go with George Pickens. So I think they're still probably the number one option in a lot of people's mind. I did read a CBS Sports article about like potential trades for Ayuk, and some of them were good, but some of them were kind of crazy, like the one where they flipped Devontae Adams and picks. But yeah. The Giants getting good news. Quarterback Daniel Jones not expected to start camp on PUP. So all signs pointing up in his ACL rehab. So that is good news for the G-men. The Jaguars, they have a new uni throwback. Let's see it here. And I don't know. I kind of liked it. It was it's pretty solid. I mean, it looks similar to what they wear right now, anyways. But of course, on the shoulder.
The big thing is the.
Oh yeah, that's
perfect.
That's some David Garrard, Maurice Jones-Drew Jaguar logo there. But yeah, I mean they're
go even further.
It also has the old school Jaguar logo on the helmet. Kind of. It's more old school than what their current Jaguar logo is. At first, I saw the one picture and I was confused. I was like, did they only put the Jaguar on one side of the helmet? But then there was another picture I saw that like faintly you could see it's on both sides. I was concerned at first. But yeah, I mean they don't in my mind, blow me out of the water, but they're pretty solid, and they're gonna debut.
I always like the good throwback look.
Yeah. They're gonna debut week 5 against the Colts. So good divisional uni there. The Jets wide receiver Randall Cobb has retired. He's going to join SEC Network as a college football studio analyst, so landing on his feet pretty quickly for Randall Cobb. Probably making more money with SEC Network than he was with the Jets. So, but yeah, I mean, great career for Randall Cobb. Obviously tied to the hip with Rodgers for most of it. So, And Cobb's a former Packer, but a current Packer has retired as well. Packers running back Kenyon Drake announcing his retirement as well. Not as good of his career as Randall Cobb, but Kenyon Drake's like one of those. He's one of those guys that like you always, when you're naming just like those random fantasy players that you played, and you're like, yeah, Kenyon Drake, sure.
Yeah. My 2020 waiver wire pickup, Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
At 10 touchdowns that year. I'm sure everyone loved him. But yeah, he's one of those players. You ever play those like sports Doku games where like you have to match up a player that matches like playing with 2 different teams or 2 different answers? He's like the perfect one running back, because he's played on so many teams. He's very rare to be brought up, but yeah, it's perfect.
Who scored a touchdown with the Baltimore Ravens in 2022?
Exactly. Touchdown score for Baltimore Ravens in 2022. That would be like a 1% answer for you. You'd absolutely dominate with that answer.
All right, let's go to the pup list here. Like I said, getting pretty full here with the teams heading to camp. So the Giants, they placed 4th-round tight end Theo Johnson on the list with a hip injury, minor injury. Very excited it's a minor injury. I think he's got a great shot at beating out Daniel Bellinger for the starting tight end job in New York with Darren Waller retired. The Dolphins placing edge rushers Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, and offensive lineman Isaiah Wynn on the list. Obviously, Chubb and Phillips coming off major injuries last year, and Wynn oft injured, unfortunately, for my former Georgia Bulldog. The Seahawks, they placed offensive tackle Abe Lucas coming off knee surgery, and linebackers Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dotson on the list. Baker also had off-season surgery, I think, as well. So they need those 2 guys definitely to get healthy, and Dotson a pickup this offseason. Good depth at linebacker. Very bad news for the Saints. They placed offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk on the reserve PUP list. So all the guys that I mentioned before, they are on the active PUP list. So they can come off the PUP at any time and be fine before the season starts. The reserve PUP list, though, means you are out for the season, as is Ryan Ramczyk. And Leggy and Rappaport said might be done, period. Like his career might be over. Lingering knee issue. They thought he had it correct. They thought they had got it corrected with another surgery this offseason. Didn't get right. So he is done for the year before it even started. And lastly, the Jets, they placed wide receiver Mike Williams on the list as well. ACL from last season. So excited to see him get on the field when he does, especially because I drafted him in one of my best ball leagues today. The NFI non-football injury list, bunch of rookies getting placed on it. Obviously, if you're injured prior to coming to the NFL, that's is the list that you get put on. So, 49ers placing first-round wide receiver Ricky Pearsall on the list. Dolphins placed running back Salvin Ahmed on it. Commanders, rookie defensive tackle Jerzon Newton coming off foot surgery on the list. And the Panthers placing rookie running back Jonathan Brooks on the list coming off his ACL tear in November. Dude, I still cannot say enough. Fantasy, guys. Fantasy's coming up. Draft Jonathan Brooks late. He will be a league winner in the playoffs. Just saying. I drafted him in all 3 of my best ball leagues. Well, actually, not all 3 because the one is a slow draft, so it's 8 hours. So I haven't gotten down to the part where I'm going to draft Brooks yet. But the other 2 I did. The other 2 I got him. And I drafted him in one of my dynasty leagues, which we'll talk about in a second. Extensions. We had some guys get paid.
Yes, we did.
Broncos signed guard Quinn Miners to a 4-year, $80 million extension, $45 million guaranteed. Excellent deal for the belly. And I know he was a guy that you wanted, right?
Yeah.
He was coming to free agency.
I was excited to see this guy. I was like, I liked him when he was drafted. I thought his story was hilarious, and he's been effective with the Broncos. And Vikings have needed interior offensive line help for a while, and I thought, oof, this guy becomes available, I'm jumping all over it.
Yeah, and
can't do it anymore.
Crazy story as well coming into the draft. No senior season because of COVID, so worked out in the woods. And got an invite to the Senior Bowl. Played very well there, and ended up as a 3rd-round pick. Division III Wisconsin Whitewater represent. The Browns, they also signed an extension with kicker Dustin Hopkins. 3 years, $15.9 million extension. That one's also a crazy story. The Browns, they send a measly 7th-round pick in training camp last year to the LA Chargers for Dustin Hopkins. Comes out, balls, has one of I think he had his best career year last season with Cleveland. And, is now one of the top 5 highest paid kickers in the NFL. And he's on my dynasty team. Yeah. Love when Cleveland kicks
news of it all.
Love when Cleveland kicks field goals and doesn't score touchdown and kick extra points. A couple other signings here. The Steelers, they signed and reunited with Bills linebacker Tyler Matakevich on a 1-year deal. I loved when Matakevich was in Pittsburgh wearing the number 44, and he was one of the best special teams players that Pittsburgh had early on in his career. And it's great that they're getting him back, though, because for one, they needed off-ball linebacker depth. And for two, they lost Miles Boykin in free agency. So they needed to get kind of a special teams ace again, like Boykin was. So Matakevich can be that type of guy.
Yeah.
And the Ravens, they made an interesting move today. They signed Bears safety Eddie Jackson to a 1-year deal. So very solidifying the back end in Baltimore, taking a flyer on a guy that it's crazy that he's still available. Multiple Pro Bowls for Jackson with Chicago, and had great ball production as well there. So would not be surprised if he balls out in Baltimore. It's just, he's at a position where the market has been, devalued.
Yeah.
And one workout to mention, the Bears. They worked out Jags linebacker Shaq Quarterman. So Shaquille Quarterman maybe signing in Chicago before training camp.
Yeah. There's another signing you didn't have on here. I want to throw it out. They The Vikings did agree to a contract with their first-round pick, J.J. McCarthy, a 4-year, fully guaranteed contract worth $21.85 million. Hit the button. Hit the button.
Nope.
Hit the button. Hit the
Nope.
And that includes a $12.71 million signing bonus, all up front. I think this is the first time the Vikings have ever given a rookie a fully upfront signing bonus, and with a 5th-year team option. So yeah, one of their 2 rookies have been signed. You can hit the button. Hit the
button. They still have one of the last 2 rookies that are unsigned. So
yeah,
what are they doing?
They take their time. This is kind of their thing.
What's the issue with Dallas Turner? That's what I want to know.
I've heard just there's nothing to worry about. It's just they always take forever.
Yeah, we're not talking rookie contracts. They're fully guaranteed, and it's fine. Anyways, all right.
Cha-ching.
Anyway. So I think this is the one of the 2 that I hadn't drafted yet. Yeah. So this was one of the dynasty teams that I drafted. Unfortunately, this was the one that I traded away the number 1 overall pick. So it was not great. It was not great, but I don't remember. Anyways, these are the draft guys I got here. Xavier Worthy at 11th overall. Marshawn Lloyd at 6th at 206 and 309. I got Theo Johnson. I was really hyped about this draft. I thought it was a good job. No, this was not the one I had number 1 overall because my team's actually decent. But yeah, so I needed some running back depth. I got CMC. I got some dudes, and Xavier Worthy was kind of just best player available in the first round. I didn't really like the options that were available, but needed some help at the wide receiver position. As you can see, I don't really have a lot of dogs, but some guys that can give me some good production, and hopefully JSN, takes the next step this year. And we'll see about some of the other dudes. And then Johnson is a guy I was like, well, I have Pat Fryermuth, who I expect to have a great year. Musgrave also hopefully steps up in year 2, gives me more. But yeah, like I said, Theo Johnson's a guy. I think he can win that job in New York. Let's go. So I have 3 dynasties on this format here. This one I had the 4th overall pick. I was excited about this draft as well, especially the first 2. Dude, I was like, 4th overall, everyone's gonna take all the wide receivers. I'm taking freaking Jonathan Brooks because I love Jonathan Brooks. So I was like, I'm getting him at 4th overall. I had to. This is a team for me that is not very good, I believe. No, this is a team I think that's okay. But yeah, 4th overall here, Jonathan Brooks. Also had the 6th pick in the second in this one. Went another Panther, Xavier Leggett. So we'll see how he does. I think he's going to have a good connection with Bryce Young. And then 9th pick, Tyrone Tracy. I think he's got a decent shot to have some production in New York this season and beyond. He's going to give him a good 3rd down back option in the receiving game to go along with Devin Singletary. But, yeah, this roster's all right. I've been trying to trade away Mike Evans because I want to get him off my roster before it's too late. So, anyways, that one's pretty solid. That's why my name's a couple pieces away. This is the one that I'm very bad at, and this was the one I had the number 1 overall pick, but actually didn't because it got traded away last year. But anyways, I had 4 picks in this one. Caleb Williams was a best player available selection. I didn't really need a quarterback, but he might end up being my best one when you see my roster. Your guy, Bucky Irving. I think he can win that job in Tampa, right?
Oh yeah, I fully believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Rashad White fan, so I think Bucky Irving's a good shot in Tampa. My guy Theo Johnson at 308. Again, love him. I needed some tight end help there. And our guy at 310, Devontae Walker, of course, had to get him on one of my teams. So yeah, this is why it's not great, and why we are called the Young Bucks, because I needed a lot of youth. Caleb Williams, like I said, dude, he might be my best quarterback this year. Who knows? We already talked about how we don't think Deshaun Watson is the guy in Cleveland. So the running backs, I'm very thin at running back, as you can see. Luckily, I was traded Devin Singletary. So at least I have a starting running back to go with Najee Harris. AJ Dillon we'll see if hopefully Josh Jacobs gets injured and Dillon can be the lead back in Green Bay. Yeah, the wide receivers suck. Just absolute trash at wide receiver. Other than Romeo Dobbs. I'm betting a lot on the Patriots receiving room with KJ Osborne and Kendrick Bourne. And then, the tight ends are okay, I guess. We'll see how Jonnu does in Miami. You got your Vikings, though, at defense. There you go.
Let's go.
Them in Chicago. Hopefully those are two good defenses. We'll see. But, yeah, that team's not good. All right, let's finally get to the NFC East, because there's nothing on the X feed. So it's my division here. The reigning NFC East champs, Dallas Cowboys, 12-5 last year. They had a ton of losses. They were cap strapped for this year, so they lost running back Tony Pollard to the Titans, wide receiver Michael Gallup to the Raiders, offensive tackle Tyron Smith to the Jets, offensive tackle Lyle Collins to the Bills, center Tyler Biadasz to the Commanders, defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins to the Seahawks, defensive tackle Neville Gallimore to the Dolphins, edge rusher Dorrance Armstrong went to the Commanders, as did edge rusher Dante Fowler Jr. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys are going to miss some of these dudes. The D-line turnover was kind of atrocious, that they lost 5 guys off that D-line. Or 4, I should say 4. But, offensive line, they lost 3 as well. And they did replenish a little bit. But I think in the trenches is going to be a lot weaker than it was previously. And we'll see if they miss Pollard or not. I don't know. We talked a lot about the Cowboys running back situation this offseason.
Yeah.
All right. On to
those losses.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, those losses in the trenches, you can't really make up for in just one offseason. And a lot of the success, both on the offensive, defensive side of Dallas, really hinged on those guys keeping up form and taking pressure off other people. So, yeah, I mean, I like what they did in the draft, trying to get some people to step in. But, other than that, this offseason wasn't really spectacular for them.
Addition wise, they signed back running back Ezekiel Elliott from the Patriots. They only had 2 free agent additions that were significant. Him and linebacker Eric Kendricks they signed from the Chargers. Sure, you can talk about Eric Kendricks.
He's washed. I mean, that's it. He's just washed. He's not the same.
And then the rest of their notable additions were all draft picks. wide receiver Ryan Flournoy, drafted 6th round, 216th overall. He's going to be one of the top 6 guys. I think he's got a shot to make an impact if Jalen Tolbert doesn't take that year 3 step that the Cowboys are expecting from him as that third guy with him and Cooks and Lamb. Offensive tackle Tyler Guyton, drafted 1st round, 29th overall. He's your new left tackle. Guard Cooper Beebe, drafted 3rd round, 73rd. Love Cooper Beebe. He might be center, though. I still don't understand why they have Brock Hoffman at center. Cooper Beebe's, I think, should win the center job there, which is weird, again, because I thought he was going to be a ready-made guard, NFL guard, but the Cowboys like him as a center. I think they drafted him as a center as well, not a guard. So we'll see if he does win that job or he has to play there this season. Defense tackle Justin Rogers, 7th round, 244th overall. He is in the top 4 rotation in the D tackle room. Space eating guy there. Edge rusher Marshawn Nealon, 2nd round, 56th overall. Also in the top 4 edge rush position behind Micah Parsons. And I know a lot of people liked him. I just didn't watch enough of him, so I don't really have any kind of feeling about Nealon other than I hate him right now because he's on the Cowboys. Linebacker Maurice Lufau, 3rd round, 87th overall. Again, I thought he got overdrafted in the 3rd round, but he has a shot. I'm not a big fan of who they have at linebacker right now. Damone Clark, a 5th rounder in 22. Eric Kendricks, obviously, you said sucks. Love my guy though, DeMarvion Overshown, 3rd rounder from last season. I'm hoping he can take a step this year because I really liked Overshown coming out of Texas last year. And then finally, corner Kalen Carson, 5th rounder, 174th. He's going to be in the conversation at the corner position behind Diggs and Bland and Lewis. So he's going to get some nickel and dime package looks probably. You got anything on the Cowboys additions before we go to the schedule?
Nothing much. I mean, you already kind of poked on it. They like Zeke. They want him back. Kendricks is nothing really at this point. I thought the draft picks are fine. Some of them should be rotational players at the very least. Some could be starters. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. You can go first. I'm going to go first in the Eagles, so you can go first with the Cowboys.
All right. I do remember I had Cleveland ambushing them this week in week 1. So I have them losing to Cleveland, turning around, beating Baltimore, and then beating Saints, and then losing to Baltimore. Starting off 1-2, kind of slow. But I have them going on a 3-game win streak, beating the Giants, Pittsburgh, and Detroit to go into bye 4-2. Come back, face San Fran, lose 4-3, beat Atlanta 5-3, lose to Philly. No, actually, I'm gonna have them beat Philly in Dallas 6-3. I had them beating Houston, I think, so 7-3 here. Beat Washington and New York 9-3. But did I have them beat Cincy? I'm going to have them beat Cincy 10-3.
The one time. These are in a vacuum, like I said, the one time, so it doesn't really matter.
Fair. Then I have them beating Carolina 11-3. But I have them losing to Tampa Bay and Philly 10-5. Oh, no.
11-5.
10-6. 11-5.
Mm-hmm.
And then beating Washington. So I think they're going to have the same record. I think they have a depleted roster, but I think their schedule, especially at the back half, is relatively easy. I don't think they're facing anyone that's going to blow them away. I think San Fran could. I think Baltimore is going to be tough, but they have the benefit of facing some really tough teams at home, like facing Baltimore home, Houston at home. I think at Tampa Bay at home, but I think they still drop that. And Detroit at home. So I think they're going to have another season where they play really well in the regular season, but they're going to have to either go out of Dallas and play outside of Dallas in the playoffs, or are going to face a team that's actually very competent in the playoffs. I see I see them repeating kind of the same 12-5 record, but not a strong 12-5.
You had 5-1 in the division, just losing to the Eagles once, right?
Yeah, I don't like the Giants and I don't like Washington. I think they're going to be walked over by both the Cowboys and the Eagles.
All right. All right. So for me, Tom Brady's broadcasting debut week 1 at Cleveland. I'm going with the Browns in that one. The Cleveland defense is what I'm picking in that one. Most of my picks are going to be because I just do not believe that the Cowboys are going to be able to run the freaking ball this year. They don't have the running backs to do it. They have the O-line to do it, potentially, if Zach Martin stays healthy. That's a big if. He's older. He's over 30 now. Inexperience at center as well, and inexperience at left tackle with Tyler Guyton. So the running game is going to factor into a lot of my picks, even though they're supposed to be this big high-flying passing attack with CeeDee Lamb and Dak and everything, which I think they're going to have to. They're going to have to throw it to win the games because I just do not think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think the holes are going to be there with the O-line. The running backs aren't going to be able to take advantage because Zeke is slow now. And Rico Dowdle has never been a full-time player. He's never been a, high snap guy. So, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, at Cleveland, I like them to lose that one. So, 0-1. They can probably beat the Saints. It's in Dallas. So, 1-1. They'll lose to the Ravens. 1-2. At the Giants, it's crazy that both their games are on Thursdays, even though the Thanksgiving one's the afternoon 4:25. But Thursday night game at the Giants, they can win that one. They'll sweep the Giants this year, like they usually do. At the Steelers, nope. Defense gonna beat them again. Sunday Night Football in Pittsburgh. They're not gonna win that one. So 2-3 at home against the Lions. They're pretty evenly matched on that one, but I still like Detroit as a better player. So 2-4 going in. Mike McCarthy's getting a little heated under his butt, I think. Week 7 bye, 2-4. They're going to lose at San Fran Sunday Night Football. That's a tough one. The defense again. So 2-5. They'll squeak one out against the Falcons. Brandon Aubrey walks it off, I think, in Atlanta. So 3-5 there. They'll split with Philly. I don't know which one it is. I think it's probably going to be, like you said, the Week 10. They win that one. So 4-5. At home against the Texans, Monday Night Football. I like Houston better than the Cowboys. So 4-6 there. At the Commanders. That's the one. I think they're going to lose that one. I think they also split with Washington. Dan Quinn gets them. By that time, Jaden Daniels will have had enough games that I think he will be in a decent position there in Washington. The defense concerns me with Washington, which we'll talk about, but I do think Dan Quinn's going to get them one time this year as a revenge kind of game. And I think it's going to be in Washington. So 4-7. The Cowboys are reeling. America's team. What are we doing? Then they go to Thanksgiving. They beat the Giants in Dallas. Everything's still not okay. 5-7 there. At home against the Bengals. Monday Night Football. I don't know, man. I don't know. I like the Bengals. You don't. I just think the Bengals are better. 5-8 here. We're real. The Cowboys are done. Mike McCarthy's getting fired. At the Panthers, they can win that one. 6-8. They can beat the Bucks on Sunday Night Football. 7-8. They lose to Philly. 7-9. They beat Washington. 8-9. The Cowboys missed the playoffs. Mike McCarthy's gone. So is Dak Prescott.
Not bad.
4-2 in the division. Yeah. I do hate the Cowboys. This is very true. But it's also
I was about to say. Yeah.
But it's also I gave reasons why. So it's not like they're
Hey, you have reasons to say it. I have a tough time thinking Cowboys are going to repeat at 12-5. It's just that I think the one thing Cowboys really benefit from is that most of the really tough matchups are at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, against the Lions, against Houston, against Cincy, against Tampa on Sunday Night Football, against Baltimore. Like, they really do benefit from having a ton of tough games at home.
Well, I think this whole division, you know, like I do every time I wait till we get to the second team to talk about it, which we're going to Philly right now. But I think this whole division benefits from the schedule. Having to play the AFC North and the NFC South. Like the AFC North, all four of those teams, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get hard-fought, you know, battles. NFC South, it's a little easier there. They're always kind of a who wants to bite the bullet and make the playoffs kind of division. But who knows? We don't know what Atlanta's going to do with Kirk now. And then, you know, their cross division games, they got to play the NFC West. So that's a tough one. The Cowboys get really shafted having to play the 49ers, which they got absolutely obliterated in San Francisco last year. They got to play the NFC North as well. Also, Cowboys, not a great matchup with Detroit, even though I think they're pretty similar teams. And then the AFC South also, which, again, tough one with the Cowboys, Houston. So, yeah, I think it's a decent schedule for most of the division, having to play, like I said, the AFC North and the NFC South. All right, on to the Eagles, 11-6. Wild card, the 5th seed last year, bounced out of the playoffs by the Bucs in the first round. Started 8-1. Or no, started 10-1, I should say. Started 10-1 last year. 1-6 down the stretch. Lost the division race. The defense was the problem, and they, I think, figured it out. Starting off with the coordinator change. I should have added those two. I was thinking about doing it. Adding Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio to the additions. But anyways, losses-wise. Yeah, Vic Fangio for sure. I like Kellen Moore too. I know a lot of people don't, but I'm a fan of Kellen Moore. Losses-wise for Philly, quarterback Marcus Mariota went to the Commanders. Running back DeAndre Swift to the Bears. Running back Rashad Penny to the Panthers. Running back Boston Scott to the Rams. So I don't know what they're going to do when they play the Giants. Like, they don't have the giant killer with them anymore. Maybe they'll trade. They'll trade for him in camp. Wide receiver Quez Watkins went to the Steelers. Wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus went to the Commanders. Tight end Jack Stoll to the Giants. Offensive lineman Jack Driscoll to the Dolphins. They traded edge rusher Hassan Reddick to the Jets. Linebacker Nicholas Morrow went to the Bills, and safety Kevin Byard went to the Bears. I don't think they're going to miss any of their guys. Other than Hassan Reddick, which they got Bryce Huff to fill anyways. Swift had probably his best year of his career, but when you look at the advanced analytics, it wasn't really that great. And he struggled down the stretch anyways. So, and while I think they might miss Mariota, he was a solid backup, but they got younger and cheaper with the trade for Kenny Pickett. So, additions wise, like I said, traded for quarterback Kenny Pickett from the Steelers. They signed running back Saquon Barkley from the Giants. Drafted running back Will Shipley, 4th round, 127th. Signed wide receiver Paris Campbell from the Giants. Drafted wide receivers Anais Smith and Johnny Wilson in the 5th round, 152, and the 6th round, 185. Signed tight end CJ Uzama from the Jets. Signed offensive lineman Mekhi Becton from the Jets. Drafted guard Trevor Keegan, 5th round, 172nd. Drafted center Dylan McMahon, 6th round, 190th. Signed edge rusher Bryce Huff from the Jets. Drafted edge rusher Jalix Hunt, 3rd round, 94th. Signed linebacker Devin White from the Bucks. Linebacker Zach Bond from the Saints. Linebacker Oren Burks from the 49ers. Drafted a linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr., 5th round, 155th. Drafted corners Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 1st round, 22nd, and 2nd round, 40th. And signed safety CJ Gardner-Johnson from the Lions. I'm going to say it again, like I've been saying all offseason. Dude, the Eagles offseason was awesome. The Saquon signing, bringing him back to Pennsylvania was great. And other than that, I mean, the free agent additions aren't going to really wow you. I think they're hoping that Devin White still has something left. Interestingly enough, Zach Bond has a starting linebacker position right now, beside Devin White, as the Eagles transition to a 3-4 this year, which will be interesting to watch. I think actually it's going to make the defense much more effective, because that transition means Jordan Davis is going to nose, and you're sliding Jalen Carter to D tackle, instead of being either like a 3 tech or, in more inside. He's going to be a little further outside the guard probably, or head up on the guard. So I think it's going to help Carter as well. It'll be interesting to see if the edge rushers can get it together. I think it's going to help Nolan Smith a lot, because that's the type of player he is. 2-point stance, outside linebacker type. Brandon Graham's going to struggle. He's older. I think 4-3 was definitely his style of defense. But anyways, CJ Gardner-Johnson being back, I think, is a big one as well. At the safety position, they struggled there last year, had to play a bunch of younger dudes with Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown, who was good before he got injured. But yeah, the draft picks were awesome. Quinyon and Cooper, Trotter Jr. I mean, I like the whole draft pretty much, which we talked about already. But I think a lot of guys are going to contribute. I think CJ Uzama is going to be a good player as well. Didn't work out in New York, but I'm actually surprised he's listed as the 3rd tight end. I thought he would be the backup to Dallas Goedert, but they have Grant Calcaterra as the backup right now on our lads. So, what do you think of the additions?
I think they saw their weaknesses and said, hey, we're in a contention window. We're trying to win a championship. We got there 2 years ago. We fell apart at the end of the last season, and we're looking at why we fell apart, and we're addressing it right away. I mean, you had DB troubles. You drafted 2 highly touted, probably the highest ceiling DBs in the entire draft, in Mitchell and DeJean. You went out and you got CJ Gardner-Johnson back, and that DB room looks great. You knew Kelsey was retiring, so you knew you also had to kind of look towards not getting another center, but getting other offensive linemen kind of around him, because you already had a guy you were going to slide over. But Trevor Keegan, I like getting. Becton is still, I think he's kind of a project. I think he can still work out. I mean, you had Reddick leaving, and you had a hole on the edge there, and you said, all right, we're going to get Bryce Huff, basically a 1-for-1 trade, and then getting Hunt in the 3rd round. I love the Hunt pick. Yeah, and I don't think there was a position on the defense that Eagles didn't see as a priority to improve, and that's exactly what they did. They got Devin White, Zach Bond, Burks, Trotter in the draft, really shoring up that linebacker core. And you saw they lost 2 wide receivers in Watson and Zacharias. Turned around, got Campbell, Smith, and Wilson. They lost 3 running backs in Swift, Penny, and Scott. Turned around and got Barkley and Shipley. So anything they lost, they gained back. Anything that they saw as a deficiency and a reason they went like 1-6 to end the season, they turned around and said, "All right, we're gonna fix it." And as you mentioned, you said you should wanted to put the OC and DC on additions, and I agree. I think Vic Fangio is going to really put this team to work. I think that offense just it has the tools. It just didn't really figure out how it wanted to be used. And I think Jalen Hurts' health also played a role in how that offense is kind of limited. But if Hurts is healthy, I love these additions. I'm not a fan of the Eagles, but seeing how well they did this offseason, it's hard not to be jealous.
Yeah, I think they are definitely the favorite. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at the betting lines, but probably I would think they are the division favorite going in. So let's start off with the schedule. The Eagles get a tough one. A home game against the Packers, but it's on a Friday, and it's in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So
yep.
It's not an easy one to start off. And I do think they're going to drop that one. Granted, it'll be interesting to see who starts. Who is going to start in the secondary? That's what we need training camp to figure out. Is Quinyon and Cooper, are they going to take jobs, or are they not going to be, up to the speed yet? And are we going to still see, James Bradbury out there opposite of Darius Slay? That's the biggest. Actually, Isaiah Rodgers is slated as the outside corner opposite as Darius Slay, which that would be a freaking awesome. I mean, for him to win a starting job coming off a year-long betting suspension, that'd be crazy. Avonte Maddox is a starting nickel right now, but that is where Cooper DeJean is the most. That's where his competition is going to be pretty much, with the safety spots locked down essentially, unless he beats out Reed Blankenship for that free safety spot. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who starts. But I do think the secondary is still going to be a work in progress. I think Jordan Love is going to continue his late season surge, and the Packers are going to win that one in Brazil. So 0-1, Eagles fans are like, bro, here we go again. But it gets fine. It's fine. We host the Falcons back in Philly for the home opener, Monday Night Football. The Eagles usually play well on Monday Night Football for some reason, and they usually play well against the Falcons. So that's going to be a win. They can go down to New Orleans and beat the Saints. Revenge game in Tampa. They're going to win that. I think the Bucs are lesser of a team than they were last year. So look at that. We're going into the bye week 5. All is well. We lost to the Packers. They're a good team. That probably is going to hurt them come seeding time. But 3-1 going into the bye. I do not like the week 5 bye. This is a veteran team. They have a lot of older dudes. Early bye is not great. Or I guess it is good. But I would like it a couple more weeks, more closer to the halfway point of the season than week 5. At home against the Browns. That is a tough one. But I think they can win that one. I think I talked about the Browns defense. That week 1 game is in Cleveland with the Cowboys, though. This one's in Philly. And I think the Eagles defense by that point in time will be up to speed. And we already talked about Deshaun Watson. So that's all I need to say about that one. At the Giants, I think they lose that one. I think they lost in New York last year as well. So I don't know, for some reason. Oh yeah, they did. That's the game I went to. Yeah, I lost. Or no, that was the Jets. Never mind. They lost to the Jets. Never mind. Not the Giants, the Jets. But anyways, for some reason in my gut, I feel like they lose in East Rutherford. So we're still fine. We're still 4-2. at the Bengals. That's a tough game. I think they also lose that one, 4-3. So it's not coming great, but it's okay. We come back home, beat the Jaguars on Sunday night, 5-3 at Dallas. We had them losing that one, 5-4. They're gonna sweep Washington at home. First one, Thursday Night Football, 6-4 there. They go to LA to play the Rams Sunday Night Football. I think they get that win. That's sort of a Vic Fangio revenge game when he was with the Rams, won the Super Bowl with them. So that gets them to 7-4. They go to Baltimore. They lose that one, 7-5. They beat the Panthers 8-5. They beat the Steelers because it's in Philly. Battle of Pennsylvania. 9-5. They sweep Washington, like I said, in DC there. 10-5. They beat Dallas 11-5, and they beat the Giants week 18. 12-5 for me. And it is a 4-2 record in division.
Nice. I also have them 12-5. The only games I would flip, I would give them the Giants. I have them beating the Giants in New York, but I have them losing in Cincy. I also have them losing to Green Bay, Dallas. I have them losing to Baltimore. Where was my fifth loss? I always forget. I was looking around. I kind of forget where I had that fifth loss. Dallas.
Rams.
So Dallas, Baltimore. I think I'm going to go, I think they lose to the Rams in LA. I think that's going to be a tough one. 12-5 makes a lot of sense.
I had them losing to the Bengals as well. So you got 12.
Okay. So, I would flip the Giants. The only difference would be flipping the Giants and Rams game. I think playing in LA that late in the season. Sean McVay usually has his team really set up well in the end of the season.
So you had 12-5, and you like 5-1 in division.
It's going to come down to some weird math between Cowboys and Eagles for determining who wins the division.
Okay, got you. All right, high marks from Jimmy for the Cowboys and the Eagles. Let's go on to the third place team from last year, the New York Giants. And team that I am really enjoying watching on Hard Knocks, especially when they were talking about Saquon. The Saquon antics were absolutely hilarious. Watching GM Joe Shane on the phone with Saquon's agent, and he's getting pissed off because Saquon really stiffed him. I mean, they gave him a number. They gave him, I think it was 12.5 for 3 years with 24 guaranteed. And Joe Shane was like, all right, well, does this get it done? And Ed Barry's like, well, if someone else gets more, and the Eagles did give more. They gave him a lot more. I think the Eagles gave him like 14 a season, something like that. So, anyways,
something around those marks.
Love stiffing the Giants. But losses wise for the Giants, 6-11 last year with injured Daniel Jones. They lost quarterback Tyrod Taylor to the Jets. Running back Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. Wide receiver Sterling Shepard went to the Bucks. Wide receiver Paris Campbell went to the Eagles. Offensive tackle Matt Peart went to the Broncos. Offensive lineman Shane Lemieux to the Saints. Defensive tackle Ashawn Robinson to the Panthers. Edge rusher Jihad Ward went to your Vikings. Safety Xavier McKinney went to the Packers, and kicker Cade York to the Browns. This is another team that I don't really think they're going to miss a lot of their players that they lost. Saquon, obviously, massive production loss, and they really did not replace him. The rest of the losses, it was Saquon and Xavier McKinney. Like, those are the two. Those were the two free agents that everyone knew the Giants had, and everyone knew they were going to get paid. and it probably wasn't going to be the Giants. So I think those are two big losses. And I think unlike the Xavier McKinney one, the Saquon one, like I said, they just did not replace that. Additions wise, they got quarterback Drew Lock from the Seahawks, running back Devin Singletary from the Texans. They drafted running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. in the 5th round, 166th. Signed wide receiver Allen Robinson from the Steelers, wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie from the Colts, wide receiver Miles Boykin from the Steelers. They drafted wide receiver Malik Neighbors, 1st round, 6th overall. Tight end Jack Stoll they got from the Eagles. Drafted tight end Theo Johnson, 4th round, 107th. Signed offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor from the Raiders. Guard John Runyon from the Packers. Defensive tackle Jordan Phillips from the Bills. They traded for edge rusher Brian Burns from the Panthers. Drafted corner Andrew Phillips, 3rd round, 70th. Signed safety Jalen Mills from the Patriots and drafted safety Tyler Nubin, 2nd round, 47th overall. So thought it was a pretty decent offseason additions-wise for the Giants, though. Like I said, they just – you kind of knew they weren't going to be able to replace Saquon. Like, Saquon's a hard player to replace. Devin Singletary, I'm not very sold on. Like, he had a great year in Houston last year. But why didn't the Texans re-sign him? Obviously, they traded for Joe Mixon. But at the same time, they wanted to trade for Joe Mixon because he's a better player than Devin Singletary. So we'll see how he does. I like the Tyrone Tracy addition, like I talked about earlier. I think he's going to be a great 3rd down option to start his rookie season. The wide receivers don't move the needle at all, other than Malik Neighbors. He's going to be the bona fide number 1 wide receiver that they've been looking for and waiting to get for Daniel Jones. Other than that, it's kind of the same hodgepodge that they had last year. It's a bunch of slot receivers that are good and not great. So, and still have injuries. They're hoping that Jalen Hyatt takes that next step as a 3rd rounder a year ago. Wan'Dale Robinson's a 2nd rounder from 2 seasons ago. They still have not gotten the production out of those guys. Miles Boykin's going to be great on special teams, like I talked about when we had him as a loss for the Steelers. Love the Theo Johnson selection. I think he's going to be the starting tight end. He can beat Bellinger out for that. They were really looking for linemen this offseason. That's why they got Illuminor to start at guard and Runyon to start at the other guard position. Those were their 2 big free agent signings. And obviously the Brian Burns trade was massive for new defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. In the secondary, I still think there's question marks. I mean, they're going to start 2 rookies currently. Drew Phillips is slated to start at nickel, and Nubin at strong safety, which I love Nubin. Nubin, an awesome player at Minnesota, ball hawk, 7 interceptions, I think, last year. So I think he is actually an upgrade over Xavier McKinney. Anything else before we go to the schedule?
Nothing much. I kind of agree with you. A lot of depth signing, a lot of decent, okay signings, but nothing that moves the needle, especially at the wide receiver position. This team just does not have targets. They really have to hope Neighbors is really that guy right away. Because if he comes in and he isn't that number 1 guy right away, like he has some growing pains and he doesn't click right away, then this is rough for the offense of the Giants.
Yeah, I mean they've been looking for a wide receiver since Odell left.
Yeah,
that's how long
they've been looking for just weapons in general, and they just have never found it. They haven't found it in tight ends, wide receivers. They had Barkley, but they never utilized him correctly because they just never figured out how to get other good players. But yeah, it's a weird situation for the Giants. I think this is going to be I really do think this might be the last year of the Daniel Jones experiment. I think their head coach might get fired. I think this might be the beginning of the end for a lot of guys in that room.
All right, well, take it out on their schedule. You're up first for the Giants here. Your Vikings.
All right, they're facing my Minnesota Vikings. And just so you know, Vikings don't know how to fucking win at the beginning of seasons. So I have them beating the Vikings here.
What a matchup.
Week
Sam
1
Darnold versus Daniel Jones.
Oh, man, love it. And if you're a Viking fan, you understand you're going to go about 1-4 every single season. And like you're going to like give yourself false hope halfway through the season, and then you're going to go like 7-10. But anyway, they're going to take Minnesota. I have them losing to Washington, then losing to Cleveland, then losing to Dallas, losing to Seattle, then losing to Cincy, then losing to Philly, then losing to Pittsburgh.
It's rough. Yeah.
And then beating Washington. Yeah, so they're gonna come out 2-7. It's gonna be rough. We might be hearing the firing calls right away.
Then
they're gonna go to Munich, and I think they're gonna be Germany, Munich, Germany. I know where it is. And they're gonna beat them 3-7. Bye week, I think this is where head coach is fired. Even after coming off 2 wins, 3-7 is just not gonna do it for you.
Drew Lock and
come back, face team. Yeah, maybe. Gonna come back, lose to Tampa, 3-8, lose to Dallas, 3-9. I'll have them beat New Orleans 4-9, lose to Baltimore 4-10, lose to Atlanta 4-11. What do I want? You know what? 4-13. Yeah, they're gonna do fucking awful this year. It is gonna be the cratering season for the Giants. 4-13. Their only in-division win is a win at home against Washington. It's going to be just garbage for them. This is going to be the end of the Dable era, the end of the Daniel Jones era. Like, this is going to be a train wreck of a season, and they're going to be picking up the pieces next offseason.
Yeah, we'll see. In my mind, I don't have it quite as bad, but I do think they're going to do bad enough that they're going to be in position to strike for one of the top quarterbacks next year. Please, dear Lord, don't let it be Carson Beck to the Giants. At home against the Vikings, I don't know. I think the Vikings are a better team. Obviously, we'll see what I actually think about the Vikings on Monday, but I don't know. I think they can win that one. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think. Well, I had them beating the Cowboys on Thursday night, week 4. So I have them starting 1-3 instead, losing at Washington, at Cleveland. What would absolutely be hilarious is if Daniel Jones got injured on Thursday Night Football, and then Drew Lock revenge game in Seattle. That would be great TV. Just saying. That's not going to happen. Probably shouldn't say it's not. But yeah, at the Seahawks, they're going to lose. They're going to lose against the Bengals on Sunday night. I had them beating Philly. So yeah, they win that one, week 7. So they're 2-5. They lose to Pittsburgh on Monday night. 2-6. They do beat the Commanders. They split all 3 of the division matchups this year. So they go into the bye, or not the bye yet, but front half, I have them 3-6. Dude, at the Panthers in Munich, I actually have them losing. I think that's a game the Panthers can win.
Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air with that one. Yeah.
So going into the bye, 3-7. And they leave Dayball. They leave Dayball in Germany. So 3-7.
No German.
They lose to the Bucks, I think, 3-8. They lose at Dallas on Thanksgiving, 3-9. The Saints one's a toss-up, but I'll give it to them. 4-9. They're going to lose at home to the Ravens. 4-10. Lose in Atlanta. 4-11. They lose. Yeah, I got 4-13 as well against the Colts. They lose.
Let's go. Welcome to
at
the
the
club.
Eagles. 4-13. However, I have a much better division record, 3-3. So they're going to win 3 of their 4 in division.
Not bad.
But yeah, I mean, that's close. That's close to being number one. Because I know we've had a couple 4-13s. I don't think we've had a 3-14. I think you had a 2-15 though for someone as well. So I don't remember.
That was the Tennessee Titans.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So it might be a 2-15 and then a bunch of 4-13 teams at the rest of the top 5.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to the Washington Commanders. Losses wise, quarterback Jacoby Brissett went to the Patriots. They traded quarterback Sam Howell to the Seahawks. Running back Antonio Gibson went to the Patriots. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel to the Bills. Tight end Logan Thomas to the 49ers. Offensive lineman Sadiq Charles to the Titans. Edge rusher Casey Toohill to the Bills. Linebacker Cody Barton to the Broncos. Corner Kendall Fuller to the Dolphins. Safety Cameron Curl to the Rams. And kicker Joey Sly to the Jags, which actually ended up going to the Patriots anyways. I think out of anyone, the Commanders lost the most value this offseason. The secondary, Fuller and Curl, are actually defense overall. Barton, Fuller, and Curl are massive losses. Barton played very well for Washington. Fuller, it was up and down, but a solid corner nonetheless. And then Cameron Curl got absolutely pizzade in LA. So we knew he was going to get a lot of money, but very, very good player there. And offensively, I don't think they're going to miss Gibson. Samuel, though, they possibly could. I know he's getting a little older, but he's still a solid middle of the field option that I think a young guy like Daniels would like to have. And Thomas, for all the injuries, he is still a pretty good player when he is on the field. So
yeah, that's fair.
All right, additions. Washington had the most in the division because obviously new regime. Dan Quinn comes in, wants to get his type of guys. So they signed quarterback Marcus Mariota from the Eagles, drafted quarterback Jaden Daniels, first round, second overall. Signed running back Austin Eckler from the Chargers, wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus from the Eagles, drafted wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, third round, 100th. Tight end Ben Sinnott, they drafted second round, 53rd. Drafted guard Brandon Coleman, third round, 67th. Actually, it's tackle Brandon Coleman, I should say. Signed center Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys, center Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs. They have him at guard, actually. Drafted defense tackle Jerzon Newton, second round, 36th. Signed edge rusher Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys, edge rusher Clellan Ferrell from the 49ers, edge rusher Dante Fowler Jr. from the Cowboys, drafted edge rusher Javonte Jean-Baptiste, 7th round, 222nd. Signed linebacker Frankie Louvu from the Panthers, linebacker Bobby Wagner from the Seahawks, linebacker Michael Walker from the Steelers, signed corner Michael Davis from the Chargers, corner James Pierre from the Steelers, drafted corner Mike Sanders still, second round, 50th, signed safety Jeremy Chin from the Panthers, and kicker Brandon McManus from the Jags. So a ton of influx of players.
Ton of moving parts.
But I think they did a great job. I mean, a lot of these guys I think are really solid. The highlights I really like are the linemen. I think Biadasz and Allegretti are solid, as well as my favorite addition that they had was Frankie Louvu from the Panthers. Awesome player down there. Just high energy motor. I think Dan Quinn loves that type of guy. and he is one of their starters right now, alongside Bobby Wagner, on our lads. So, yeah,
Yeah. I loved beefing up that offensive line for what you hope to be your franchise QB in Jaden Daniels. I thought the defense was fine. I think they got some guys that aren't really long term, kind of guys that are very much over the hill,
oh,
but
I forgot
hopefully
they
are going to
signed tight
bring
end Zach
veteran.
Ertz as well. I forgot they signed Zach Ertz from the
Yeah,
Cardinals. Well, yeah.
yeah, that goes into my point. Just a lot of guys on the other side of that hill. Eckler, sorry, not Hurts, Ertz, and Wagner. But you're hoping they can be solid veteran presence as this team continues its rebuild and gets better with what you hope to be you know, uh, franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels. I like that they immediately said, all right, we need to protect him. Let's get two of the best interior linemen / centers in the free agency class right now. I like the draft pick of Coleman. I like Newton as well. 4 edge rushers, that's always a good thing to go for. My only issue is really just the wide receiver position. I think Zacharias is fine. I think McCaffrey is fine, but they peak at fine. You need more than fine. You need like go-to target
They got me. They got
for Jaden
McLaurin and
Daniels.
Dotson. They got McLaurin and Dotson.
Oh yeah,
now.
that's right. McLaurin, yeah, Scary Terry. I'm still iffy on Scary Terry. I'm wondering if last year's kind of poor performance was more on Sam Howell than him. He didn't have a greatest season last year. But sure, if you get Scary Terry back, then you're fine. I would have liked just maybe more in that wide receiver position. But I think Zacharias and McCaffrey could, be 3 and 4 for this team going into the season, which is fine. But yeah, I thought they had a solid offseason, but very much still on the rebuilding track.
Yeah, for sure. I just think Dan Quinn's such a good coach. That's why I kind of have a little bit of higher expectations than I think a lot of people do for Washington this year. So at the Bucks week 1, they're going to lose that one. That's a tough game. They win at home against the Giants, though. So there's Dan Quinn's first win as the Commanders head coach. At Cincy on Monday night, they lose. At the Cardinals, I think they lose that one too. At home against the Browns, they lose. At the Ravens, they lose. So it's tough. It's a tough start. 1-5. I mean, that's a difficult schedule to start the year. 4 out of the first 6 are playoff caliber teams. Then they have the Panthers. Week 7, I think they win that one. So 2-5. They do beat the Bears. 3-5. At the Giants, they lose. So 3-6. At home against Steelers, they lose. 3-7. At the Eagles, Monday night, they lose that one as well. 3-8. At home against the Cowboys, I think they're going to be a 1 division win season this year. I think they're only going to split with the Giants. Or no, I had them splitting with the Eagles too. I think.
Right.
No, I didn't. I had the Eagles losing to the Giants.
No, I think you had the Giants.
I had the Commanders beating Dallas though. Week 12. Week 12, I had the Commanders beating Dallas. That's the one I had. So they lose at Philly Monday night. They come back. They beat Dallas in Dan Quinn revenge game. So they are 4-8 at that point. I think they can beat Tennessee 5-8 into the bye, very late bye. So like you said, that's a long time to wait for those veteran guys, Bobby Wagner and co, the over 30 crew that they got on some of the positions. 13 weeks is a long time to wait for an off week. But they'll come back 5-8, feeling decent, like 5-8. You're still in it technically. Even if you went out, get to 9-8. Maybe maybe the NFC sucks this year, and you could squeak in at 8-9. Who knows? But 5-8, they go to New Orleans, they lose, they're out of the playoffs. So 5-9, they lose at home against the Eagles. 5-10, they lose at home against the Falcons. 5-11, and then they lose at Dallas. 5-12. So not a terrible season. I mean, it's better than what they did last year. No. They went 4-13 last year, so 1 win improvement. Why not? And
there's not much room to there's not much room to improve in my opinion, but that makes a ton of sense. Let's see, what did I have? I have them losing to Tampa. I have them beating Giants 1-1, losing to Cincy, beating Arizona. I think Arizona's going to be Arizona's such a weird team to try to gauge, but I think Washington could pull that out on the road. 2-2. They're going to lose their next 2. 2-4, beat Carolina 3-4. I think they lose to Chicago. I think Chicago just has a deeper team. 3-5, lose to Giants 3-6, lose to Philly 3-7, lose to Pittsburgh and Philly 3-8, lose to Dallas 3-9, lose to Tennessee 3-10. I think they're gonna have a really tough start, but they're gonna come back. They're actually gonna play really well at the end. I haven't beaten New Orleans 4-10. Beating Philly 4-11. Oh no, losing Philly 4-11. Actually beating Atlanta 5-11, and then losing Dallas. So I also have them 5-12, but just mix up a couple of those games. I think they'll be better on the road against Arizona. I think splitting with the Giants is easy. I think they could beat Carolina. Chicago at week 8 is going to be. I think Chicago just has a really good defense. So I think they're not going to pull that one out. I had Tennessee doing the 1-2-3 challenge, where their only 3 wins of the seasons are going to be against pick number 1, pick number 2, and pick number 3. But yeah, and I think they can beat Atlanta late in the season. I think Atlanta is one of those teams that just continues to frustrate their fans at the very end of each season. And I think that's going to be one of those games where they're like, seriously? We put ourselves in position to win our division, and we lose to Washington in Week 17. Are you kidding me? So it's going to be one of those kind of losses. But yeah, 5-12. I think a lot of things you can hang your hat on. I think Daniels is going to struggle, but he's going to play like an okay rookie. I think veterans are going to keep this team up and going. I think a lot of guys are going to make solid improvements. I think Dan Quinn's going to install a pretty good system and a lot of good things to say. It's going to be one of those seasons where you look at it and you're like, it was a pretty solid 5-12 season.
Yeah, the secondary just scares me. I mean, for some reason, our lads doesn't have Emmanuel Forbes as a starting corner right now, which I have no clue. Just looking at their depth chart, Emmanuel Forbes is their best corner that they have. Other than Mike Sanders still is excellent. He's going to be their starting nickel. Michael Davis was absolutely trash in LA last year with the Chargers. Benjamin St. Juste, 21 third rounder, is their other starting corner right now. They have James Pierre, who's been a career backup with the Steelers and I think one other team. And it's really not great. So the safety position is decent, but not great. Jeremy Chin is a hybrid linebacker safety kind of guy. Derek Forrest is a guy that has played decently as a 5th rounder from 21. They have Pro Bowl special teamer Jeremy Reeves as well. But the secondary is the thing that scares me the most. Dan Quinn's known for defense. I think their front 7 is going to be stout, but they're going to be let down by the secondary a lot this year, especially when they're going up against some of these teams that have passing attacks that I think will cause them trouble. Like week 1, the Bucs with Evans and Godwin, I think are going to give them fits. Higgins and Chase in week 3 with the Bengals. Obviously, MHJ in week 4 is going to give them a good one. They got to face Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roma Dunze with the Bears. Maybe I shouldn't have them winning against Chicago. obviously Malik Neighbors twice. They got to face CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks twice. They got to face A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith twice. The Steelers, they got to face Pickens. The Titans now with Hopkins and Ridley and Boyd. They got to face Olave in New Orleans. And, yeah, I'm not going to say anyone in Atlanta because I don't like anyone in Atlanta, so it's fine. I don't like Drake London, so it's cool. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough matchups for their secondary. So that's one thing that I think they're going to have to attack next year. They got to upgrade at the corner position, and secondary overall. So, yeah. All right, to recap, Jimmy, who are you picking?
I'm gonna pick the Eagles. Even though Eagles and Cowboys both go 12-5, I think Eagles get it based on some legal technicality. I forget what comes after division record and
conference
normal record, but yeah, I think Eagles take it. Conference record. So I think Eagles take it. Dallas obviously second. Both of them 12-5.
Yeah.
Washington 5-12, and then Giants 4-13. I mean, it's going to be a very split division. You're going to have the haves and the have-nots, and Eagles and Cowboys haves, Giants and Washington have-nots.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also had the Eagles winning the division, 12-5, 4-2 though, one less in the division. Cowboys are my second place team. I have them missing the playoff, 8-9, 4-2 in the division. Just do not see it with Dallas right now. Also third place is Commanders for me, 5-12, 2-4, and Giants also fourth place for me, 4-13. However, much better division record, 3-3. Next week, my bad, I forgot to change this one. I forgot to change the logos. Anyways, my bad. Anyways, next week we'll be talking NFC South, where the Tampa Bay Bucks are the defending division champs. Monday, talking your division, Jimmy. NFC North coming up. Maybe we'll even get Danny Potter's thoughts on his Packers this year as well. But yeah, NFC North on Monday, NFC South on Friday. As we move toward the season, I think we're what was it, like 50 days or something like that the other day? I think so. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast and Instagram and X. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And we will see y'all back on Monday. Did it end?
No.
I clicked it.
I still have live over here.
Okay. Whatever.
I'll exit. I exited last time, so maybe that'll help. See you.
Yes, please. Please, put it on. Yes.